Funny that it's Essendon player testing positive or something, isn't it?
Pull your finger out of your ass.
Jeez.
This is my first ever football jumper. My three votes, I should say. My three goats. My three votes for Charlie. Oh, top of the world, mate.
What a time to be alive.
I look a bit like Nickel Bellic from GTA 4, I feel, with this.
That could get dangerous.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 72 of the Pressure Point podcast. Week one of the finals is in the books. What a weekend of finals football that was. How'd you find it, mate? It was some pretty intense games there.
Absolutely. And it was quite nice to sit back and relax and not have any real emotional investment into this year's final series, so you can appreciate them for what they are. And I don't think they let us down at all. I mean, Port Adelaide put on a clinic. We saw that really close game, obviously, between the Giants and the Swans, Battle of the Bridge, and then Melbourne just looked dominant, and the Bulldogs did what they had to do as well. So great final series of week one so far.
Yeah, absolutely. It was even though a couple of those games sort of blew out, there was some real intense moments in a lot of them. I know that Bulldogs Essendon game, like the first half was really intense. There was it was hard to pick a winner in that game, and then the Dogs sort of kick clear and flex their muscles. But then that GWS Sydney game, wow, that was crazy from the get-go right until the end, where Sydney probably should have won the game in the end. So crazy weekend. And I guess the craziest thing to happen from the weekend, and it's where we're going to start tonight, is the Toby Greene incident with the umpire. What are your thoughts on it? We all love Toby Greene, but it's hard to mount a case for him here.
Yeah, absolutely. It is hard. I think a lot of people going, oh, it's a Toby Greene rule for this one, with all the criticism coming his way. But I think rightfully so. I don't think there was any malice in what he did. I don't think he was intentionally trying to walk through. Like, when I say intentionally trying to, I don't think he was trying to intimidate or make a point by pushing through him like that. I think he just wasn't thinking and walked through him, because he didn't deviate or lift his elbow. He just walked straight but didn't move out of the umpire's way. So for me, it's definitely intentional contact. I don't think there's any malice, but the rules state that you have to miss weeks if you make intentional contact with the umpire, and they've been strict on it already this year. We saw what happened, and I made a pretty big deal out of the Trent Cotchin scenario that happened a few weeks back, where two players got fined for the same incident. So, I mean, if they're getting fined for an accidental contact and Toby Greene's deliberately walked through him, you've got to give him at least a week, I think. Yeah,
definitely. I can't see him escaping any sort of punishment there, and rightly so. As much as Toby Greene's one of my favourite players to watch in the game, and he is for a lot of people as well. But it's hard to ignore what he's done here, and what is he thinking doing that as well? Just walking. Like, how does he think he's going to get away with something like that? If you do that anywhere on the street or anywhere, like it's looked upon very badly, and let alone to do that on a footy field to an umpire. You just got to wonder what's going through his head, and he's probably going to cost his team a win in the semi, you'd think, without him there.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. And I mean, as GWS, this isn't the first time he's done it. He famously missed a prelim back in 2019 for being suspended as well. This is clearly an issue for Toby Greene, and it's good that he plays on the edge because he brings that intensity and that heat into the game. But at some point, surely someone at the Giants have to pull him up and say, mate, we can't have you missing these games for doing simple things like that. That's not hard to not do. Like, it wasn't a football incident where it was just bad luck. He's gone out, you know what I mean? That's something you definitely could have controlled. And like you said, without him now against the Cats as well, that's going to be huge if he doesn't play. Yeah,
for sure. Like they only played Geelong a few weeks ago as well, and he kicked 4 goals. And was the difference in that game. And ironically, he did get suspended in that game as well for that elbow on Dangerfield. So it's going to be a huge loss. And I mean, if they manage to get through against the Cats, and whether he's going to be playing in the prelim as well, I think he's going to get 2 weeks minimum, just because you just can't have that on the footy field, and it's a poor look for the lower leagues as well, and for the juniors. So it's I think he's in big trouble. I think at least 2 weeks. What do you think he's going to get?
I think what I think he should get, and what I think he will get is different. I think he will get a week. I say that because it's finals, and I feel like their decisions are always different come finals time for whatever reason. They should be consistent all year round, but they're not, sadly. So I think he'll get a week. I think he should get 2 though, what he's done. But I think he'll only get the one. And the
Yeah.
verdict
Okay.
tomorrow morning, they're going to tribunal. So recording on a Monday night, Tuesday 9 a.m. I believe it is. So the time this is released, the verdict will be out. But there are our thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if he gets off, there'll be an absolute outcry. And I'd hate to see what a lot of the media outlets will do if he does get off. As much as we want to see Toby play, I just can't see it happening. So yes, by the time this comes out, we'll definitely have an answer in regards to that. But it's it doesn't look too favourably, and it's a shame because I'd love to see the Giants are playing some good footy as well. They've been one of the most informed teams over the last few weeks, and you'd back them in against Geelong with Toby Greene there, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. And like you said, they're just clicking at the moment. Everything's going right for them there. All their players are sort of firing. No one's really not performing at the moment. So it's perfect time for them to knock over the Cats, who were vulnerable after a big loss against Port as well. And, they lose this, they're out of the finals now, Geelong. So it's a big chance for the Giants. But without Toby Greene, it'll be very hard.
Yeah, for sure. Well, while we're on the Cats, let's talk about their game against Port Adelaide on Friday night in the second qualifying final at Adelaide Oval. They were never in it. Port Adelaide were way too good. They were intense at the contest. Their tackling pressure was elite. They played like a team that wants and are desperate to win the premiership. Their ferocity on the contest was incredible, and all of a sudden they're the favourites along with Melbourne, and rightly so. They tore Geelong apart.
Yeah, I think the word you used there that summed it up the best was pressure. And Port, their pressure was so intense, and Geelong just couldn't match it. And they were fumbly. They were missing easy targets. I know Dangerfield dropped a couple easy grabs. I know they said that was because of his injured hand now. Whether that's, I believe his hand's injured, but whether he dropped those marks because of that or he felt the pressure, who knows, bit of both. Yeah, they just didn't look up to the challenge. And then I know that you're playing Port Adelaide over there as well, and it's a tough gig anyway. But it was, it was not good for Geelong. Definitely worrying signs, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially 2 or 3 weeks ago, Geelong was everyone's tip for the flag, and they seem to be in a bit of a bad spot at the moment. As I said, they're coming up against a rampaging Giants outfit. So, and with a Dangerfield with a suspected broken hand or whatever he's got there as well. So, geez, I wouldn't want to go out in straight sets, especially with the recruiting that they've done this season, and their intentions to win the premiership. It'd be terrible for the club, and it's almost a where to from here if they do go out in straight sets.
If they go out in straight sets, there'll definitely be a lot of questions asked around the club because they're going to make those choices. Do we get rid of these older players now and start, almost redeveloping from, all the young guys coming up, or do we give it one more crack? It depends how everyone's feeling, I guess, body-wise, but it'll be tough. I think the only thing that they'll take a bit of, they'll be a bit not happy about, but a little bit of comfort in is that they've had really poor elimination in qualifying finals the last, 8-9 finals they've played in. They've lost most of them. So, and they've always seemed to bounce back and, make it to prelims and last year, grand finals. So I think they have the ability to bounce back, but I tell you what, they looked really lost without Tom Stewart in that half back line. Did you?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh. Yeah, he's going to make a massive difference having him out. He was arguably their best player all season, one of their most important. But that half back pocket sweeper role is one of the most important in footy. You see when a team has one of their major ball movers out of the team, that it makes a massive difference. And the amount of play he sets up from back there is crazy. So yeah, who knows if they can't get through this weekend, it's probably going to come down to not having Tom Stewart there, because he's been that main cog in that team. So I know if you had to pick right now, Geelong going to win the flag, or can they win the flag?
I think they can, but I don't think they will.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. My tune has changed in them over the last couple of weeks. Halftime of the Melbourne game in the final round, I thought they were going to run away with it, but I don't know. On the weekend, they just looked second rate against Port Adelaide, as well as they were Port, but Geelong just didn't look good. So we'll find out we'll find out this Friday night against the Giants. But there could be some alarm bells for the Cats there. Speaking of a team though that wasn't great was Sydney against the Giants in that elimination final on Saturday afternoon. And geez, they blew their chance big time. They had a lot of opportunities to win that game in the last quarter, and GWS hung on to dear life, and ended up finishing with a 1-point win. So Sydney will be absolutely devastated with that loss.
I think devastated is almost an understatement as well. Like you said, I reckon they had about 8 or 9 or 7 or 8 points they kicked in the last quarter, and if 1 or 2 of those had just gone through the middle, they win this game. They dominated that last quarter in terms of the play around the ground. They just couldn't get it on the scoreboard. And like you said, GWS were just holding on, hoping for the best, and came away with a 1-point win. And it just makes you think the Giants obviously lucky to win this one. Do you think that, obviously we've spoken already, they're saying they're in good form, but do we think that they're able to go forward and still make a big challenge? I know Sydney are a good team, but they were lucky to win this, the Giants.
Yeah, I think so. Like, Sydney had an incredible season. They were arguably one of the best teams in it. And for the Giants to knock them off, it was huge. And for a lot of that game, GWS were well in control. It was late when Sydney started to make their charge, and Isaac Heaney was incredible, and Big Bud was doing some good things. So, but geez, they missed some chances which they should have put away, and we wouldn't be talking about them being eliminated. But I think you still got to give credit to the Giants. They controlled a lot of that game, and and I don't think that's an understatement at all. I think the GWS can cause some damage with the way they've been playing the last few weeks.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree. I just know a lot of people might have been questioning it, but you're right. I think the Swans were one of the better sides all season. For the Giants to bounce back, they did scrape into the 8 really in the end. It came down to the last 2 rounds of the season that they made it into the 8. So to get a win against Sydney week 1 of the finals is massive for them. Yeah,
and just everything that they've been through as well this season with they've been away from Sydney since the start of June. Well, so have the Swans, but GWS have had a lot of issues as well on the injury front. They've probably had the most injuries in the AFL this year. A lot of stuff's gone wrong for them, and for them to make finals and then win a final is huge for them. So, and they'll go in with a lot of confidence. As I said, they only beat Geelong a few weeks ago, so I think they're a big shot for it. Later that day, in the first qualifying final, was Melbourne and Brisbane at the Adelaide Oval, and the Demons have solidified their spot as the big dog in the AFL at the moment. They are flag favourites, and the Melbourne supporters are up and about.
It's definitely a grand old flag at the moment, and I can already see the differences now between this year and their 2018 season. They played really well. They just look so much more dominant, more mature. Everybody is firing on the team. I mean, they had 6 or 7 blokes make the All-Australian squad. I don't know how many made the final team in the end, but everyone's playing well on that list, and they're a team that just look hungry to win the flag this year, and they're my favourites at this stage. And coming up against Brisbane, I know it was at Adelaide Oval, not at the Gabba or anything like that, but that's still a big performance to come away 33-point winners.
Yeah, for sure. Their defensive unit is one of the best defensive units I've seen in a long time. They are an absolute brick wall back there. Steve May, Jake Lever, they just set up so well. Nothing gets through them. And with Brisbane have had the best attack all season, and they couldn't even get through that Melbourne defence. So that's what wins your premierships. Defences win your premierships, as they say. And I think they're in the best position they've been in for a long, long time, Melbourne. And you'd almost be shattered if they didn't win the premiership this year. Just the way things are sort of falling for them with their goal up the siren in the last round, and to win the way they did as well against Brisbane was huge. The big players were dominant. Petrarca was good, kicked some 2 late goals to seal it for him. Clayton Oliver was best on ground. Max Gawn was dominating. So everything's aligning for him, and it's going to be crazy if they do break that. I think it's at 57 years now. If they break that, it's going to be an emotional one, similar to what we saw with Doggies and the Tigers the last few years. It's going to be crazy for them.
It's going to be huge. And I'm earlier in the year, I was sort of a bit over Melbourne. I've never been the biggest Melbourne fan. I have no reason to dislike them either, but seeing the win they had after the siren last week, and Petrarca getting emotional on camera, it's made me really realize that how much this means, and how long it's been for them. And I'm all on the Melbourne bandwagon at the moment. I wish them all the best for the rest of the season. And look, the way they're going, it's sort of the fairy tale season, isn't it? Everything's going their way, like you said. Things are panning out for them just nicely. I don't think they've really got any injuries either, touch wood. So I reckon they can go all the way and take it away this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I said it to you off air. I think if Geelong can get through the Giants and beat them comfortably, I would be worried as a Melbourne supporter playing Geelong in a prelim, just with the experience Geelong players do have in finals. Geelong knocked off Brisbane at the Gabba in last year's prelim, and no one really expected that. So I think Melbourne wouldn't want to be playing Geelong in a prelim, but you'd have to back them in as flag favourites now. They're just playing the best footy in it. And yeah, we know a lot of Melbourne supporters. We've had a lot of Melbourne supporters come on the podcast this year, and I'm sure there's going to be some to come over the next couple of weeks. And geez, we'd be very happy for them.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Well, let's move on to Sunday, and the other elimination final down in Tassie was between the Dogs and the Bombers. Essendon's streak continues.
A little bit like the Undertaker with that. He was straight.
We shouldn't laugh too much, but
I was about to say we don't really have many legs to stand on, considering neither of our clubs made finals this year, and Bombers were tipped to be bottom four, and they've had an incredible season, made the 8, which is a massive testament to the way that they've played all year round. And they obviously didn't play well in this game, but you can't knock them for the season that they've had this year. And I think they've exceeded all expectations, even their own. So I reckon most Bomber supporters, although they'll be pretty flat to go out like this, I reckon they'll be pretty happy with the season as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. They had a great season. Credit where credit's due. I know we gave them a lot of credit the other week. Outstanding effort to make finals, considering where everyone predicted they'd finish at the start of the season. So they've been brilliant. They've had a couple of All-Australians in Zach Merritt and Darcy Parish, who's elevated his game to be one of the best midfielders in the comp. So there's a lot to like there. They'll be better for it. And they were unlucky to play the Bulldogs, really. Bulldogs are much better than a fifth place side. They were top 2 all season. It was always going to be tough for them, but it was just the way that second half sort of panned out. Bulldog ticked, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but a number of unanswered goals, and Essendon didn't kick a goal in that second half. And you're not going to be winning any finals if you don't kick a goal in a half of football. So it was almost their doing. And now a lot of Essendon supporters will probably say the umpires didn't help them either.
Yeah, well, I was about to say that's one thing that does remind me of the Essendon of old is all the supporters jumping up all of a sudden and saying the umpires lost them the game and Cody Weightman's a cheat. And I think out of all the free kicks Cody Weightman got given and to kick all his goals, I think one of them wasn't there, and that was a Zach Merritt bump over the boundary line. I thought that was stiff. That's one goal. That's not 49 points, which is what they lost by. And to answer your question, or not your question, but your statement before, they kicked 8 unanswered goals, the Dogs.
There you go.
They didn't kick a single goal in the second half, the Bombers, and they kicked 5 behind. So I had chances in front of goals. They just didn't convert, and they lost the game for themselves. You can't blame the umpires for this one, I don't think, although I know they love to, Essendon supporters. It's in their nature, so it's probably nothing new for them. But, I think the Dogs were just looking really good, and I was worried for the Doggies too. I thought without Josh Bruce, I thought, could be interesting, only having the one target in Norton up there. But Josh Shackey came in surprisingly and played a really, really good game. I thought he played his role quite nicely, and for a guy that's been playing in the twos most of the season, he played really well.
Yeah, he was brilliant for him. The first half of that game, the first quarter and the second quarter, that was as intense as it got for a finals game. So just to see the Bulldogs just keep clear and flex their muscles in the second half was was great, and just showed their credentials as well. But yeah, if you're not kicking a goal in a whole half of football, you're going to be struggling to win a game. So disappointing for the Bombers. I think their record now, it's obviously been well publicised about their streak, but their losses in elimination finals have been big ones as well. I think there's been a couple of 60-point losses. There's a 50-point one, and on the weekend it was 49 points. So, they're not just losing these finals, they're getting smashed. So it is an issue, and you think it's almost gone down to the culture of the club, or they're putting too much pressure on themselves to break that streak. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but yeah, their losses in first week of the finals haven't just been losses; they're getting smashed. So they'll eventually break it one day, and I'll be very interested to see what the tally is when they do break it.
Hopefully after our lifetime. But I think with the Dons at the moment, is they've got a completely refreshed list almost. So you can't even sort of put down what's happened this week and compare it to the other years where they've been smashed. So whether it's lack of experience this year, or if it is the same issues that they're having, they're going to have a little bit of a deep dive, because like you said, you can't have these past losses like that and just ignore them. So I don't think that they're related personally, but they may be. And I think that's something the club has to discover before going forward to next year, because you don't want to be in the same position.
Yeah, absolutely. And as much as we hang shit on Essendon for the streak that they've got, it is pretty bleak and pretty grim. It's a grim record to have. I think every other team in the AFL bar Gold Coast has won a final since Essendon last won one. So it's not great. Like, yeah, they've made finals a few years, and but if you're not winning one it's going to be 18 years next year. It's not great, and I think the criticism is justified.
Yeah, it definitely justified. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that I was in the same boat with the Tigers. I mean, in 2013, we made finals and lost, 14 lost, 15 lost, and our last win was 2001. So we went through a pretty big streak as well without winning a final. So I can definitely see where they're coming from, how they're feeling at the moment, the Bombers supporters, but it's not, yeah, you're right. It's not a record anyone wants to have.
No. Theo, with that example you just said, then things can change quickly as well. So they might break their streak and go on a big one and win a premiership. So who knows? But yeah, I think they'll be better for it, the Bombers, and I think they'll be back up there competing next year. You mentioned before about All Australian, and the All Australian team did get released between our last episode and this one. Do you have any players, any surprises from that? I personally have one player I could not believe didn't make it, and that's Jacob Weiring. I think that's one of the biggest All-Australian snubs ever. And I'm saying that from a non-biased point of view. I just don't know how he didn't make it. He was regarded as one of the best defenders in the comp all season, stats-wise, and in a defence that was getting absolutely hammered every week. I just don't know how he didn't make it for the second year in a row as well.
This is the second year in a row. I was thinking the same thing. He was probably the biggest one for me that I could think of that was left out. The only thing, and I was picking my brain trying to think about this as well, is who do you take out to bring Weiring into that side? That's the only one. Like, I agree he should have made it, but looking at the team now, I'm thinking, well, who would I pull out to put him back in? And that was
I would probably take out Bailey Dale. I know Bailey Dale had a great season as well, but I would have moved Aliir to the halfback flank and put Weiring as a centre halfback. I feel like Aliir plays more as that floater, where he can almost play like that rebounding role, where Weiring is that lockdown centre halfback. So I probably would have moved Aliir to a halfback and put Weiring at centre halfback and kept Bailey Dale out. But I know that back line is pretty good, but for me, I thought Jacob Weiring was the best defender for the season, along with Stephen May. So I just don't know how he didn't make it, which has baffled me on the night. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's definitely a tough one. I thought he was very, very stiff not to make it. I reckon it's almost just a straight swap for Bailey Dale, because you see players be put out of position anyway, so you wouldn't even have to worry too much about the reshuffling of, positions where you are in the back line. As long as he's in the back six, I think he can fit. But other than that, I think I was pretty happy with the side. It was good to see a small forward actually make the All-Australian as a small forward instead of just putting a token midfielder in there like they've done in previous years. So Tom Papley making it this year was good for me. I was always happy to see a guy that's in position actually playing in that position, because I know a lot of the time, even wingmen, they just, they normally put a good midfielder on the wing and wingmen get snubbed and small forwards get snubbed. And this year I thought they did all right with putting players in their right positions.
Yeah, well, Sam Walsh was named on the wing and barely played on the wing all season. So, and I think the same with Zach Merritt, who was on the other wing as well. So it's still a bit interesting, that one. But speaking of the forward pocket role, Jake Stringer, very unlucky not to make it as well. I thought his season was incredible. So I think along with along with Jacob Weiring, I think those two were probably the biggest surprises for me not to make it. I think, yeah, they both had incredible seasons. So, but they're never going to get it right. There's always going to be some controversy with the All-Australian team every year, isn't there?
Well, that's it. And I did forget about Stringer, actually, so I apologize for that. He was another big one as well. But like you said, there's too many good players every year that someone has to be left out. And, if you're the one that gets left out this year, it's unfortunate, but maybe next year, you never know. So if anything, it might be more motivation to back it up with another great season. Because I think for Stringer personally, anyway, this has probably been his best season I've seen him play. Obviously had a lot more time in the midfield than what he's probably used to. And I thought he took it on really well and had a fantastic season. So if he can do it again next year, he's every chance.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let's move on to the semi-finals that are coming up this weekend. We've already touched on them briefly, but we'll go into them a bit more now. Friday night, we've got Geelong and the Giants at Optus Stadium. Yeah, it's huge, this one. As we spoke about before, Geelong with their concerns, and GWS with coming in with a lot of confidence. So it's going to be an absolute ripping contest on the big deck at Optus Stadium as well. It's going to be a ripping game.
It's going to be a fantastic game. I'm really looking forward to it. Friday night as well. Perfect time slot for it. It's a hard one to tip for me because for me, my tip will vary. If it's Geelong versus the Giants without Toby Greene, then I'm tipping Geelong. But I think if Greene plays, I'm giving the Giants every chance to win this one. So for me, it depends on tomorrow's verdict, to be honest with you. But I'll say the Giants for now anyway, and just presuming Greene will get off, and I'm going to say the Giants for now.
Yeah, I'm going Geelong purely because Toby Greene I don't think is going to play. And I think Geelong are too good not to bounce back after the weekend as well. They've got too much experience in their team, a lot of finals experience, premiership experience. So I think they'll bounce back and play Melbourne in a prelim, which will be huge as well. So Cats for me, but if Toby plays, I might change it to the Giants, but very unlikely. And I'm surprised you're going with the Giants and assuming he'll play as well.
I just sort of go for something a little bit different. I don't think he will play. I don't think he'll play. So, I mean, really, my tip is Geelong, but I'll say the Giants for now anyway, just to mix it up a little bit.
No, I like it, mate. I like it. Just like how you chucked your votes in for this round, even though we crowned our winner last week. But mate, you're full of surprises today, and I love it.
It's just the recognition they deserve, mate.
The other semi-final is between Brisbane and the Bulldogs on Saturday night at the Gabba. Brisbane get a home final. This is going to be another great game as well. Very hard to pick this one. Brisbane obviously coming off that loss to Melbourne, and then the Bulldogs coming off that big win against the Bombers. So it's going to be a great contest.
It really is. And for me, it's going to be hard to go past Brisbane. I think they're going to relish the chance to play at their home deck. They had it last year and they obviously didn't go as far as I would have liked. And I think they'll be sniffing this chance to get a win over the Dogs at their home deck. And I'm going to give it to the Lions, but I think it's going to be a very close game.
Yep. I think the Bulldogs are going to win. I think their form on the weekend to win by 49 points in the wet in those conditions was very impressive. And I think the Lions, they didn't look great against Melbourne. As good as Melbourne were, they didn't look too good. Had a lot of players down. And I think the Bulldogs, after their late season slump, that's going to give them a lot of confidence at win against the Bombers. And I think we all know how good the Bulldogs are. They were a top 2 team all season. So, I think the Dogs are going to win. I think they'll get the Lions, and the Lions will be out in straight sets, which will be disappointing for them because they've also had a terrific season. So, I think the Dogs are mine.
They've had a fantastic season, but they've also had a fantastic couple of years, and they've just fallen short in seasons. And if that happens again this year, they'll be very disappointed. And some change, I think, will have to be made. I don't know what that change is. Obviously, it's not coaching for mine. I think their coaching is perfect the way it is, but something has to be changed because they just sort of flunk out in finals when they might not be expected to. And going out in straight sets definitely isn't what we would have thought would happen from them. But I don't mind your tip there with the Dogs. The only reason I didn't go with the Doggies is because the last 3 weeks leading up to finals were pretty shaky for me. And one good performance is fantastic, but I want to see it twice before I have some real faith back in them. And I think they can for sure. But I think for mine, Brisbane still for me.
Yeah, no, it's going to be, it definitely could go either way. This one, I think it's going to be great. Both semi-finals are going to be great to watch. So really looking forward to them. But that's it. That is 2 games for the round. It's really we're really in finals mode now, and I think the AFL is about to officially confirm that the grand final is going to be in Perth. Just with the COVID chaos that's going on down in Melbourne, there's just absolutely no chance it's going to be at the MCG. So that's going to be a great spectacle, and I believe all the prelim finals will apart from the Port one. I'm pretty sure, yeah, because Port's going to have their home game in Adelaide. So the Melbourne prelim is going to be at Optus Stadium. So it's going to be good. I'm actually looking forward to seeing what they can put on. And it's going to be a ferocious crowd over there. And if it's going to be anything like the Dreamtime game, it's going to be a great spectacle.
It really will be. And I think this year, WA has really shown a serious interest in having the grand final. We made fun of them last year for sort of being a bit blasé about having the grand final there. And the Gabba did a great job, but I think WA and Optus Stadium have an absolutely fantastic opportunity to put on a great show. And no doubt they will. No doubt they will whatsoever. But it is disappointing this week and with only 2 games of footy. That's what happens when you get to this time of the year. There's not as much football over the week, but the games tend to be of a high quality. So you got to look at it that way, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good way to look at it. I like it. But yeah, it's footy is coming closer to an end, another season. So it's sad times, but it is also equally the most exciting time of the year as well. But that is us done for this episode. It's been great. Finals are here. Melbourne supporters are up and about. You're doing your finals votes. It's a great time to be alive, isn't it?
Mate, what a time to be alive. Absolutely. Love it. We love
it. All right. But as we say every week, make sure you leave us a review. Subscribe to us on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Enjoy the finals, and we'll chat to you next week and preview the prelims.